I'm Simon, I'm the coordinator for the Suffolk Voluntary and Statutory Partnership Network, and over these past few weeks I've been talking about the benefits and challenges of exercise with a few friends and colleagues who have a range of experiences of engaging in exercise. I myself have been in that place where, through being mentally exhausted, I've been physically exhausted, not for a day, not for a week, but for months. And I've come back from that place, and in the last 12 months have been running every day, over 600 miles. And so I felt that I'd gained a little bit of insight into some of the benefits and also the challenges of, in my case, running with a little bit of cycling, a little bit of walking, but especially running in this last 12 months. I'm just about to turn 60. It wasn't an obvious thing to do, but it has been, a bit special for me as a journey. I never envisaged I would be running. What's it about? It's mad. But there we go. In this 3-part series, talking together about the benefits and challenges of exercise, in this conversation I'm with Richard, and I'm going to let Richard introduce himself. Richard, look, thank you for joining me here in Bury Library. We're in November now, 2023, and we're here hopefully to have a chat about exercise, what the benefits are, but equally what the challenges are. The running's interesting though, isn't it?
Oh, running.
The running, in the sense that, usually what gets people going from walking to running, if there's nothing chasing you, we've got no wolves, there's nothing.
That's right.
So the kind of incentive to pick your heels up, if nothing's chasing you and you're not like hunting food, which I'm assuming not hunting food, not being chased. So I'm sure, like me, if I put the clock back a year, why would I run?
Why would it be running?
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing there is I kind of whenever I'd see anybody running on the heath, I kind of turn my nose up a bit at it. And so it's very interesting that these years later I should get involved in it, because that's, we for whatever reason we have a mindset, and sometimes we get stuck in it. So what changed it for me was my son. We were talking about him doing his thesis for his master's.
Okay.
And for some reason, he is the one, and I have to give the credit to him, that he picked up and that I really ran with it on parkrun. And it was down in Bristol. And he volunteered, and it was all to do with relational leadership.
Okay.
And it's the thing about volunteering, it's the thing about people engaging in it, whether you're a runner, an organiser, so on and so forth. And then it's about the whole, and then that opens up into the well-being side of things. Now, for me personally, I can remember doing my first run with him in Bristol. It was up at the course was in the middle of the park, and I can't remember I'm ashamed to say I can't remember the name of it, but it was a run really almost vertically uphill.
Good start.
Get to the top, and then downwards. And I can remember that first run took me about 47 minutes plus. And
were you doing a 5k run there?
That was a 5k, so that was a park
Did you
run.
build up to it?
No, I
just went straight in.
I just went straight in without any training at all.
So 5k, 3 miles.
Yeah, 47 minutes. So that's a bit of a degree of where I was fitness wise, but it was pretty exhausting. Fast forward a bit to he finishes at Bristol. I carry on with it, as in I try and find the local park run to me. I had some encouragement from a couple of one or two people down at tennis who had got involved in it, and I have to give them credit for that as well. But I'd drive over to Ipswich because that was the nearest one to me, and I'd run in Christchurch Park, which was wonderful. It was a couple of laps, once again a bit uphill. And what I did for probably the first 20, 30 park runs, it was a mixture of running and walking.
Sure.
Because I couldn't, my aim was still to continuously run. And if I'm being honest, I've now done about 130 park runs.
Yeah.
And and I'm getting a bit aged now, and I can't remember, if I'm being honest, the first time I did it without stopping. So without
can
walking.
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
About what
Yeah.
age? Personal
Yeah.
question. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
About what age were you when you started? When we turn the clock back to that first run in Bristol,
Yeah.
roughly what age were you?
So I'm 67 now. I'll be 68 in March of next year. So if we said 4 to 5 years, so I was 62, 63
Yeah.
when I first started running.
So I think that's interesting because people
Yeah.
might watch this and think, yeah, but come on, I'm not going to do this now.
Absolutely.
You know, and so kind of gives us all hope if people over 60 are thinking, no, I can have a go at this.
Yeah, and also, you know, I was a smoker as well. So I've been a smoker. I've now given up smoking for about 15 years. So I had quite a number of years of smoking beforehand. I wouldn't put myself into the heavy smoking category, but I would put myself very firmly in the middle of, you know, regular habitual smoking. So to be able to do what I can do now, I took that decision of giving up smoking well before I started running. But it puts a smile on my face all the time, every day, thinking about the running, thinking about what I've achieved. But it is the mental health, and that to me is
So
immense.
let's just explore that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So there's the being with other people. You're taking part in
Yeah.
something that other
Yeah.
people are taking part
Yeah.
in, and that's a sense of community. Even if you turn up at a park run or an event and you don't know anyone
Yeah.
else, you're still with a lot of people,
Yeah.
and you're all doing the same thing, and maybe a look with each other, and then you're off and around you go at the same time. So you're with people. There's the possibility of then maybe doing that with a friend or not,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be. No one's judging. There's so many people that you're kind of part of, but lost in the crowd a bit,
Yeah.
which can be quite nice if you're not a runner.
Yeah.
And then that mental health, that benefit, obviously you're outside,
Yeah.
so you've got the fresh air. You might have some rain as well,
Yeah.
but you've got the fresh air, and the sense of achievement. If you think, I've pushed myself outside, I'm going to run,
Yeah.
and I did it.
Yeah.
And
It's
then-
that sense of achievement. And I think, interestingly, some of this coincides, and we've all been affected by COVID and what happened there. There is no doubt in my mind that when COVID struck and things were getting shut down, and but more importantly, I had COVID right at the beginning of COVID, and I had pneumonia. I was at home, and I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that having been doing the running
Yeah.
and already doing that helped me, because I did feel really ill. I wasn't anywhere, close to, sadly, how a lot of people were affected by it. But my recovery equally was hastened because of the running that I'd been doing prior to that,
Yeah.
and just my general state of well-being. And I think because that can lead to a lot of depression and so on and so forth, can take you down. Now, during COVID, I was, when we were working from home, I was running every single day. And what I did is that I would work in the morning, get to lunchtime.
This is a confession now, is it?
This is a confession. This is a big confession. I would then go out for a run for half an hour.
Yeah.
In my lunch hour, come back, and then more often than not we would have meetings and whatever, and so I would reappear again having gone for this run, and there is no doubt. I mean, running every day. The wonderful thing about it is that and what it does to you in terms of our resilience, I think, is that I was running in any weather, and I would just go out in my running shorts, t-shirt, trainers. That was it. Whether it was 30 degrees plus, or whether it was
so you're
not
64, 65, 66 years old.
Yeah.
Get out because you'd built up a little bit to that already by doing the park runs, by acclimatising your mind and your body to go, I can do that. I can do that.
And freezing cold, ice, snow, whatever it was. I remember there was something on the news about the health minister. I've forgotten his name. I must remember to say it.
Don't worry. Just
Hunt. I can't remember his first name off the top of my head, but there was a news story about him slipping over in the snow and the ice and breaking his ankle because he being a runner. So I was very careful about that. And what I have done is it's taught me to be careful and respectful. I think that's another thing, and respecting oneself. There's so much I feel that I've got out of running is I cannot tell you. It really, I sound probably a bit like what are the people that are obsessed with whatever it is, but it's not an obsession. I've got a balance of life, but there is a bit of I've got a bit of an addictive behaviour, I suppose. That's part of that.
But if you're gonna latch onto something, there are worse things.
There are an awful lot worse things to do than do that.
I've got to run.
And it's the mental health, it's the discipline, it's the talking to people, it's supporting people, it's encouraging people. It's I can't do enough, and I've volunteered quite a few times at the local park run, and the feeling you get from doing that, whether it's setting the course up or marshalling. I always made a point when I was doing the marshalling, and will continue when the next time I do it, is to always be encouraging to people, and as they're coming round, whether it's because our course is sort of 3 laps, whether it's on the first lap or the third lap, that you're cheering people on, because people did that for me, and although it was very generalised, one takes it very personally. So I can remember the first runs I did in Ipswich, in Christchurch Park, and at the start you have to run up a fairly steep hill, and you get to a corner, and I can still visualise the woman who was on the corner there, who seemed to be the same woman every time, and her encouragement, it was so personal that she was encouraging me. Well, she was encouraging me personally, and occasionally, because you get to talk to people and then they know your name. So then when they sort of say, Richard, well done, you're doing, it's just so good.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. And then like...
And how often do we get that? I mean, how often in life do we have someone going, well done, come on, well done?
We just don't.
Not often.
Not often.
How often do we come together as 100 people, all with the same purpose,
Yeah.
and all being kind of, so I can see, you know, I'm seeing you're maybe walking most of the way around, but you know, someone else flying off at the front, but actually you're all doing the same thing,
all doing the same thing,
chilled about.
Yeah, and the people that finish, those fast runners, you know, who have finished and then they're walking away, they're still encouraging the runners that are still going. So there's no, oh, I've done my run, I'm an elite runner, I've finished. No, they're part of it as well. So it doesn't matter whether you're the tail walker and the person that's walking round, and that's as much as that person can manage for whatever reason, to the person at the front or the group of people in the middle, and it's just, it's just something else. And I think going back to the daily running, so my running was every single day, and I would do at least 30 minutes running every day. It's the running and it's the preparation, and if you can feel like your ankle tweaking or a knee or something like that, you're just very careful about it and respectful about it.
So for you, it's 30 minutes. For someone else, they might go 10, 12 minutes, walk, run a day.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's about a mile, isn't it?
Yeah.
For most people,
Yeah.
12 minutes, something like that, they can probably have jogged a mile. And that actually is what schools are doing. Many primary schools do a daily mile. They encourage all their children at some time during the day as a class to get out and do however many laps it is of their playing field and cover a daily mile, walking, running. And that's always struck me as a really good idea for grown-ups.
Absolutely.
Why just primary? I mean, secondary school children, gosh, they need to get out and off their screens and do a mile for sure.
Absolutely.
But us all too. Daily mile seems like quite a good idea.
And a mile, actually, it's this sense of achievement, because there are many people that do. Going back to when I was first married with the children, and I would walk into town. And when I think about that, it's it'd be like a mile walk into town, go and get the shopping, carry the shopping back. Well, the exercise that you're doing there, you're walking in, then you're carrying the shopping bags back. And I can remember my grandmother actually, and trying to encourage her to walk, even if it was walking around the garden. So that brings in the whole thing with, during lockdown, Captain Tom, wasn't it, with his walks around the. And I think it's about mobility, and it's about people, maintaining that mobility. We're all guilty of maybe habits changing. I'm the first one to recognise that, and it happens before you've even known it. You have some time, recently I had a bit of time off work. And before you know it, what are you doing? You're getting up in the morning, and then, if you haven't got anything on, you're going to sit. Well, sometimes it's great to sit, but you can see how that could quite quickly, if you haven't got a routine that you're following, you can see how that quite quickly would be. You could sit all the way through the day. If you haven't particularly got to go out, you haven't got to do any shopping, you're not meeting anyone, you could sit through that day. Then what happens if that day repeats again? And then repeats again? And if you haven't got, close family, friends, you can see how that, you can very quickly go down. So it's about the encouragement. That's what I get from and I've changed my routine in terms of running, but that's what I get through the friends and the WhatsApp group, because they'll remind and say, who's going, I'm going running tonight, who's going running tonight? Yeah. It's a little reminder.
And it could be walking.
It could be walking.
It could be walking, it could be running. Yeah. Obviously works well for running.
I'm going for a walk.
But I'm very conscious that some people might go, look, I'm not going to run.
Yeah.
But I think it's like many things. It's a bit like, I don't know, the person who goes, I'm not eating custard. Do you know what I mean? Well,
Yeah.
just give it a go. Do you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to, if you give it a go and you don't
Yeah.
like it, you don't. But as with many things, that word habit and it becoming part of the routine, part of the day, you're not going to get that. It's endorphins. You know, it's what
Yeah,
your body
yeah,
releases
yeah,
when you get a
yeah.
feel-good factor.
Yeah.
And if you get that from getting out in the fresh air, from running, from walking, and then you kind of think, should I do it today, shan't I? Well, I'd like that feeling.
Yeah.
So then you go and do it,
Yeah.
and then if it becomes a habit, then just like, you know, I haven't got much time in the morning, I'm going to eat something for breakfast because I need some breakfast.
Yeah.
Then exercise can become the same, where you
Yeah.
go, okay, I haven't got much time for it, but I've got time to do that because that's what I do. You
Yeah.
know, I eat breakfast, I eat lunch, I eat tea, and I do X. You know, that's what
And it
I
helps
do.
with routine because you have to fuel your body as well. So it encourages you to do that. My granddaughter sadly was very ill when she was 7 and spent almost a year in Addenbrooke's, and she had cancer. And she's now 22. She's still to a large extent in recovery, sadly, but one has these inspirations in life through the events that we, you know, have to kind of go through, endure, I suppose. And going back to the Heath, there was the sort of run for life thing, and I can remember my daughter, she bought me the t-shirt, I went over and we all ran it together, the whole family, and we did the 5k on Royston Heath, and that was in the early days of my running, and I felt immensely proud that I could do it, you know, without it, you know, thinking about continuing to do it. At the time, it was huge to be able to do that. But what a wonderful thing to be able to participate in something like that. I've done a couple of other charity things, in fact, where I've got to now, and I thought to myself that something like a half marathon or anything longer than 5k, I never even thought about that. So a half marathon or a marathon, I thought, wow. I'd always talked to people who had done it, and they're very, you know, all the. And I've now, I went with one of my sons to Cambridge early on this year. It was in March, and we visited, and it happened to be the day that they had the half marathon on in Cambridge.
Okay. Yeah.
And that obviously stayed with me,
Inspired.
and we watched it. So when it came to do it, I'm not very good at, I must admit, you know, one of my failings is I'm really not very good at booking things in advance. That's part of my anxiety, you know, and my kind of bipolar anxiety, whatever you call it, you know, sort of depression's nature that I've gone through in life. Anyway, I think this year, out of the blue, I think it was the day before, the night before, I said, guys, London Marathon's on tomorrow. And I'd seen it on TV the previous year,
Yeah.
where they were running round near the Cutty's Ark in Greenwich. And I thought, I want to be there. And I just said to them, do you want to meet up? And so we met in London at Greenwich near Cutty's Ark, and that still makes the hair stand on my, you know, and the inspired by it. So anyway, to cut a long story short, through, I don't know when it was, September, that kind of time, something came up about the Cambridge Half Marathon, and I just thought, I just applied for it. And I thought I could do it with and this is my mindset to it, I could do with it, because what you can do is you can get a sponsorship to do it, and you have to raise a certain amount in order to get it. I wanted to do it, not selfishly for me, but I didn't want sponsorship to be the reason I was doing it. I wanted to do it in a strange kind of way. I'm going to be raising money, but I didn't want to. I wanted it to be sort of. I can't explain quite the ethic behind it, but so I'm doing it in March. I've had 3 runs now where I ran 10 miles because I wanted to test myself to see if I could do it. I then ran 14 miles. The intention was to do 13 miles, but
so you've done it.
Kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure I've done the dry run, as it were, even though I was really exhausted at the end of it, and it was a bit of an uphill, stomp rather than a run. And then I did another 11 miles as well since then. So my plan is to do 1 a month of 10 miles plus to keep me there. And then hopefully I'll continue afterwards. That's the plan, is to know that I can do it. As for a marathon, I'm still a bit of a way off that, but it was interesting that on the day when I went to meet the boys, my sons in London, and I was travelling down on the train and the tube, and because of the nature of parkrun, I think, and I think there seems to be a huge connection with people that do running, and I was very sniffy about it, I must admit, and we change our views in life, but I'm on the tube and there's a guy there and I'm going, you're obviously doing, he's obviously doing the marathon. I said, have you done one before, and all sort of thing, and there were people of all ages. And there were people there at 20, 30, 40, 50, and people were just happy to talk. Yeah. And I can remember talking to 1 or 2 people, and I said, well, I don't think I could do a marathon. I said, because of my age. And he said, well, how old are you? And he said, well, I'm the same age as you, or older than you. And
Did you go, damn?
That's my. But it was inspiring. Yeah, it was a bit of that. And I'm thinking, yeah, I could do this. So I think the marathon is.
There's a glint in your eye.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the half marathon is there to be had, and I know.
And approaching a half marathon, having run 100 plus parkruns.
Yeah.
So there's a build up to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which probably wouldn't make sense if someone was thinking, I want to do a half marathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that build up, people need to be just careful.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to hearing next March how you got on.
Thank you very much.
And not so much how fast you did it, or even if you completed it, just did you enjoy it? That's Absolutely. The thing, isn't it? Because you go out to enjoy it, and if at the end of the day you think, and I got around the course as well.
Yeah, and Cambridge, it holds something very special to me anyway. Yeah. It's somewhere that I hold very dear to my heart, and so that there's an element in that. But just to say as well, in closing as well, that I think 2 or 3 weeks ago when I diverted over to Felixstowe because of the weather, or for whatever reason. I'd just like to have a change. And the most amazing thing in hindsight was that I worked out that I was running. There were a couple of people between you and I for your first parkrun that you did in Felixstowe, and then meeting you afterwards. I've got a hugely spiritual, a very strong spiritual feeling that I work with, and it seems to work in many different ways. And I think there's a prime example of going somewhere, and I think I may have got a PB. And I did get a PB, I think, or an improvement on my time at, it wasn't an overall PB, but it was an improvement on my time at Felixstowe. And then to meet you, and then realising that actually, in hindsight, you finished, I don't know, about 3 or 4 people in front of me, and that we'd been running at the same time.
Yes.
We didn't even know we were there. It was extraordinary.
That was quite a coincidence, wasn't
Yeah.
it? That was quite a coincidence.
And I think, for you, and it's been part of the conversation that we've had over the last year or so,
Yes,
since you've
yeah.
been started, and to think that you went and did that, and that's an achievement in itself, and to share that with someone that I've got a huge amount of respect for, and for you to do that, I think is just wonderful. Great thing though, as well, to add that you did it, also sharing it with your son and your family, and I think you get all that encouragement, you give it out and you get it back, and I think it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed doing my first park run, and so I can relate to some of what you were saying, but obviously I also had done quite a lot of running before that, largely having had a chat with you at the Bury VASP in person after the COVID lockdowns, and we sort of got together for a face-to-face meeting in Bury, and you then talked about your running with your son, and I thought, my son needs someone to run, to encourage him, to get him running again, and I'm not a runner. I've never run since I was, I don't know, I can't remember when, but just to start to encourage him last Christmas to go out once a day and take me out to run a mile. That's how I started. And I thought, well, that won't do me any harm, but more to the point, it'll just get him going again, because he was a runner who'd had a really unpleasant injury and he couldn't run, and he'd signed up to do a marathon. So that's what you do when you're, what was he, 18? And he's done it. He's done it. So
He's done his marathon.
He's done his marathon in Budapest.
Oh, did he really?
For charity.
Fantastic.
Yeah, just in last month he did it.
Yeah.
So that got me.
Wonderful.
That got me to get out. It was me thinking, well, actually, Rich went out with his son, and my son really could do to get going, but he's never going to run a mile, because that's just not running for him. That's even the start of the warm up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if he came out with me for a mile, that might just get him going, and it did get him going.
Yeah.
So it worked, and for me as well.
And the benefits.
I've run ever since.
And do you feel your health has
December.
improved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely, physically and mentally.
And mentally.
Definitely.
Yeah, really.
And on that note,
yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to talk to you and share.
Let's hope somebody watches it and thinks, oh, they're a couple of daft brushers, aren't they? But they might also think, maybe I could do it. Maybe you could. I reckon I've pulled my belt in 2 notches since I started running.
Definitely.
And I did have some sort of jippy sort of right hip. I haven't felt that for months.
Good.
So it does also just help support your body, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Back, hips, all those things. As long as you don't go too far, too fast.
Yeah.